Brennan, Walter. Find the most villainous performers from the golden age of Hollywood, the underbelly of Hollywood. Walter Andrew Brennan came into this world in Lynn, Massachusetts on July 25, 1894. A working-class Irish-American family was Brennan's background. His calm resilience and work ethic, which would eventually define him in real life and in his roles, were evident in him from an early age. The principles of self-control, modesty, and tenacity that he learned as a child and carried into his remarkable career informed his formative years. Brennan had a full and varied life before she tried acting. During World War I, he was a soldier in the United States Army Field Artillery stationed in France, a formative event that altered his perspective on life and made him a more patriotic person. Upon his return to the U.S. after the war, he tried his hand at a number of occupations, such as those of a bank teller, lumberjack, and California real estate investor. The Great Depression wiped out much of his savings, unfortunately. The strength and stability he gained from his own personal struggles informed many of his on-screen identities, particularly the elderly, weathered characters he frequently portrayed with eerie authenticity. Entering the Hollywood scene, Brennan kept a low profile. In the 1920s, he got his start working as an uncredited extra and stuntman in silent films, but people took notice of his unique voice, expressive face, and adaptability right once. With the advent of talkies, his worn-out, raspy voice became an asset, and he started getting bigger, supporting parts over time. He became famous as a character actor in the mid-1930s when he played a wide variety of endearing, eccentric, and occasionally obstinate elderly people. This was his breakout role. He broke a record that no male actor has ever achieved, winning 3 consecutive Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor. In 1936's Come and Get It, he won his first Academy Award for his performance as the tragic Swan Bostrom. After that, he won for 1938's Kentucky and 1940's The Westerner, the latter of which included his iconic turn as Judge Roy Bean against Gary Cooper. Subtlety, depth, and genuineness were the hallmarks of every part, demonstrating Brennan's talent for taking on characters and making them feel real in a way that touched people deeply. The silver screen was not Brennan's only arena of accomplishment. He had a fruitful foray into television in the 50s and 60s, playing Grandpa Amos McCoy on The Real McCoys from 1957 to 1963. He demonstrated his comedic timing and tenderness in a family context, solidifying his popularity with a new generation of viewers in this role. He won over millions of viewers nationwide as he portrayed the character Amos McCoy, whose rough voice and rustic wisdom made him a cultural legend in the United States. Brennan was a versatile actor with tremendous energy, but he was best known for his convincing portrayal of elderly roles, which frequently stretched his true age by decades. He collaborated with legendary performers and filmmakers, including John Wayne, Howard Hawks, and William Wyler, on a wide range of projects, from comedies and westerns to dramas and war films. Red River, 1948, Rio Bravo, 1959, and To Have and Have Not, 1944, are some of his most cherished roles in American cinema. Brennan released multiple country and spoken-word albums during his brief musical career, in addition to his acting career. His iconic song Old Rivers, a touching story about a farmer and his mule, became a hit across genres and helped establish his place in American popular culture. Ruth Caroline Wells became Walter Brennan's lifelong partner and spouse in 1920 when he was 26 years old. They were bound together by the enduring principles of family, tradition, and stability, which would serve them well throughout their careers in show business. A steadying influence in Brennan's life, both professionally and personally, Ruth was an unassuming and profoundly supportive figure behind the scenes who helped him stay grounded in the crazy world of Hollywood. Along with Arthur, Walter Jr., and Ruth, the couple had 3 more children. Each of the couple's children was a symbol of their commitment to and pride in their strong family relationship. In contrast to his rough on-screen demeanor and craggy voice, Brennan was a loving and caring father in his personal life. As a result of their father's example, his children developed a rigorous work ethic as well as a profound respect for the arts and the finer things in life. Despite Walter Brennan's meteoric rise to fame in the 1930s and 1940s, he never stopped being a part of his famously tight-knit Brennan household. He taught his children to be humble, work hard, and love the outdoors. An incredible 54 years passed during his marriage to Ruth, a remarkable feat in the history of Hollywood and the United States of America. The fact that they were able to weather the decades of social upheaval in the United States together is a tribute to the humility, tolerance, and understanding that permeated their partnership. Purchasing the vast 12,000-acre Lightning Creek Ranch in the picturesque Wallowa Mountains region of northeastern Oregon, approximately 20 miles north of the town of Joseph, in 1940, Walter Brennan, during the peak of his career, made a substantial investment in his future and personal pleasure. Buying the ranch was a very personal decision for Brennan. It reflected his desire to be back on the land, to be among open spaces, and to live by the principles of independence and hard labor. In addition to serving as a refuge from the hustle and bustle of Hollywood, the ranch came to represent Brennan's profound affinity for rural America with its undulating landscapes, panoramic views, and relative solitude. He dedicated his life to tending to animals, riding horses, and enjoying the tranquility of the Oregon wilderness, devoting his resources to the land. Brennan would frequently escape there in between film projects to relax and re-establish a connection with nature, providing a welcome escape from the hectic pace of Hollywood. He had feelings for the people of Joseph that went beyond the property. Brennan quietly became an influential benefactor to the town. He built the Indian Lodge Motel, a Western-style inn that served visitors and movie buffs enticed by the region's picturesque scenery and Brennan's reputation. At a time when there weren't many options for amusement in small towns, he also opened a movie theater so people could watch both old and new films. In addition, Brennan wanted to help out his neighborhood and offer the people of Joseph what they needed, so he created a variety store. In addition to bolstering the economy, his endeavors had a lasting impact on the town's social and cultural fabric. Lightning Creek Ranch and the Joseph area were more than just a passing fad for Brennan. It became a legacy that would live long after he passed away. Over the years, he would make frequent trips back to the ranch as his film schedule permitted, devoting full seasons to ranch chores, outdoor pursuits, and family time. He frequently referred to his ranch as his haven, the spot where he could relax and be himself. In sharp contrast to the hectic entertainment industry, Brennan found meaning in the peaceful countryside, which gave his life direction away from the screen. The Brennan family's connections to the Joseph neighborhood were strong even after his death in 1974. A few of his offspring opted to stay put, carrying on the legacy of Walter and the strong ties he had fostered to the local community. Many in Joseph, Oregon, still hold Walter Brennan's legacy in high regard, not only for his work in movies, but also as a neighbor, businessman, rancher, and unassuming benefactor. The places he helped build and the people he left behind will always remind us of the land he loved and the principles he held dear. Character actor Walter Brennan, who won 3 Oscars for his portrayal of grizzled veterans and sage Western sidekicks, was more than simply a mainstay of the golden age of Hollywood. He was a man with strong convictions, including some quite conservative and contentious views. As he grew older, Brennan was more vocal about the moral decay he saw in America, including in Hollywood. According to reports, he thought a lot of his fellow celebrities were not only naive, but actively harmful to American society. Brennan allegedly mentioned a number of Hollywood figures who, in his private talks and alleged off-the-record comments, exemplified the worst elements of the industry. It wasn't that the names were obscure. It was because they were among the most famous people of the 20th century, which made them frightening. Henry Fonda, who was well known for his parts in 12 Angry Men and The Grapes of Wrath, was admired for his poise and the depth of his performances. The liberal engagement and progressive causes that Fonda was involved with profoundly unsettled Brennan, a fervent right-winger. Brennan saw Fonda's advocacy for civil rights, criticism of U.S. foreign policy, and agreement with New Deal principles as evidence of subversion rather than virtue. Under the pretense of knowledge and compassion, he believed that the Hollywood elite, of whom Fonda was a symbol, were destroying traditional American values. Brennan saw Kirk Douglas, the macho actor from Spartacus and Paths of Glory, as yet another danger. Brennan saw Douglas's hire of screenwriter Dalton Trumbo as an inexcusable act of rebellion against anti-communist sentiment, even if Douglas was praised for resisting the Hollywood blacklist. Brennan's ideal of virtue and propriety was at odds with Douglas's forceful character, alleged infidelity, and raging independence. Brennan suspected Douglas of glorifying anarchy and undermining patriotism due to his frequent portrayal of morally dubious or defiant individuals. Perhaps the most ostentatious name on the roster, Errol Flynn, was notorious for his scandals, wild parties, and off-screen antics. He was even accused of statutory rape, which were later dropped. Many looked up to Flynn because of his macho charisma and carefree demeanor, but Brennan saw him as a symbol of Hollywood's moral decay. The way Flynn lived repulsed Brennan, a man who was profoundly moral and devout, beholding him as a representation of laissez-faire consumerism and moral decline. Brennan was particularly angry with Jane Fonda, who was the daughter of Henry Fonda and was a divisive figure in Hollywood history. Her acting credits include Coming Home and Clute, but it was her anti-Vietnam War activism and her contentious 1972 journey to North Vietnam in particular that garnered her the moniker Hanoi Jane and the disdain of conservative Americans. In Brennan's eyes, Jane Fonda was more than simply a political adversary. She was a traitor. She became a target for his scorn since her activism ran counter to his patriotism. A same countercultural trajectory was pursued by Peter Fonda, who was both Jane's brother and Henry's son. Brennan probably felt utter terror playing a part in Easy Rider, a movie that glorified drug use, defiance of authority, and escape from conventional wisdom. Peter Fonda's on-screen image and off-screen behavior exemplified a generation that had strayed from traditionalism, discipline, and morality in his view. Brennan, who held trust in the importance of honesty, integrity, and perseverance, would have viewed Peter as a tainted result of Hollywood's narcissistic production line. Natalie Wood, a beloved actress known for her roles in Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story, was another unexpected selection. People were curious about her turbulent life and her unsolved death, even though she had a beautiful appearance and was talented. A tragic emblem of Hollywood's ability to devour and ruin even its most promising stars, Brennan may have seen her that way. He may have had little compassion for her because of the rumors about her extramarital affairs, her frequent drinking, and the shocking manner of her 1981 drowning. Instead, he may have seen her as just another victim of the immorality and excess prevalent in Hollywood. Elmer Gantry, and From Here to Eternity star Burt Lancaster, was well known for his commanding screen presence and liberal political views. Like Henry Fonda, Brennan viewed Lancaster, an outspoken advocate for liberal issues and civil rights, as a threat to the American way of life. He was probably seen by Brennan as an enchanting propagandist of socialist ideology who hid his political goals behind respectable pretenses. One possible explanation for Brennan viewing Lancaster as a disruptive force is his fearless and frequently violent personality. The smooth-voiced crooner and famous White Christmas hero, Bing Crosby, didn't seem like the kind of person to belong on such a list. Despite Crosby's seemingly perfect public persona, he was actually emotionally abusive, cruel, and cold toward his children, especially Gary Crosby, who would go on to publish a tell-all book detailing his father's nefarious past. Brennan, who envisioned powerful but fair patriarchs in families, probably thought Crosby's alleged actions repugnant. Brennan would have seen Crosby's dual personality, charismatic on stage and authoritarian at home, as emblematic of the Hollywood facade. Gary Crosby, who was not as well known as his father Bing, still became the center of attention due to Bing's legacy. Brennan may have seen Gary as a byproduct of the poisonous culture in Hollywood, rather than an evildoer in and of himself. The discovery of dysfunctional family dynamics inside a highly esteemed Hollywood family further solidified Brennan's conviction that corruption permeated the industry on all levels. The most surprising choice would have to be James Stewart, who was famous for his gentle, virtuous roles and his distinguished military service. Even with someone as well-liked as Stewart, Brennan, known for his complex personality, may have retained hidden grudges. Ignorance about the origins of the animosity, whether ideological, professional, or personal, remains a mystery. Brennan may have been suspicious of Stewart because of his tight relationships with liberal Hollywood personalities, even though Stewart is a Republican. Maybe Brennan's own complaints about the profession found an easy target in Stewart because of his prominence and critical praise. Everything that Brennan despised about contemporary celebrity society was encapsulated by Elizabeth Taylor, who was extraordinarily beautiful yet had rocky relationships and was married more than once. Brennan may have been irritated by her political ties, her vocal advocacy for LGBT+ rights, and her fundraising for AIDS. He thought ladies and public figures should be very subdued and reserved, and Taylor's way of life was a break from that. He saw her impact on American culture as a sign of cultural deterioration because of her influence on media, fashion, and values. The so-called list of evil actors that Walter Brennan supposedly compiled was more of a defensive measure against moral and intellectual challenges than an attack on their abilities. The liberal activity, changing ideals, and social changes that these celebrities came to symbolize collided brutally with his conservative worldview. Whether prompted by personal experience, political fanaticism, or religious passion, Brennan's scathing judgment of his contemporaries presents a sharp portrait of the ideological differences inside Hollywood's golden period. This perspective also serves as a sobering reminder that the industry was filled with strife under all the glitz and gloss. When people have fundamentally different ideas about who and what America should be, it's not only about egos and careers. Brennan retired to his property in Moore Park, Ventura County, California, and lived his latter years there. In Oxnard, California, he passed away on September 21, 1974, at the age of 80 due to emphysema. Walter Brennan, a veteran actor who won 3 Oscars, was recognized by the New York Times. The Los Angeles cemetery known as San Fernando Mission was the site of his interment. In private meetings and off-the-record remarks, Brennan allegedly brought up a list of Hollywood celebrities who he thought exemplified the darker side of the industry. The inclusion of the most famous celebrities of the 20th century on this list was shocking. Henry Fonda's grace and thoughtfulness were hallmarks of his roles in films like 12 Angry Men and The Grapes of Wrath. On the other hand, right-winger Brennan was worried by Fonda's political activism and progressive issues. According to Brennan, Fonda was subversive because she backed civil rights, was outspoken in her critique of U.S. foreign policy, and believed in New Deal ideals. Under the guise of intellectualism and compassion, he thought Fonda stood for the Hollywood elite who were destroying American values. Another danger that Brennan perceived was Kirk Douglas, who played Spartacus and was in Paths of Glory. The hiring of Dalton Trumbo by Douglas was praised, but Brennan saw it as an intolerable defiance of anti-communism. Brennan's ethics and discipline were at odds with Douglas's flamboyance, reported womanizing, and fierce independence. Brennan was more convinced that Douglas elevated chaos and undermined patriotism due to his frequently morally ambiguous or defiant performances. On-screen antics, wild partying, and many scandals, including statutory rape accusations that were subsequently dropped, made Errol Flynn, perhaps the most ostentatious name on the list, notorious. Brennan viewed Flynn as the moral decay of Hollywood, while many others appreciated his rakish attitude and devil-may-care charm. In contrast to Brennan's devout morality and religion, Flynn's carefree hedonism reflected a decline in moral standards. One of the most divisive figures in Hollywood, Jane Fonda, the daughter of Henry Fonda, was the object of Brennan's wrath. Her acting credits include Coming Home and Clute, but conservatives in the United States looked down on her as Hanoi Jane because of her anti-war activities, particularly her 1972 trip to North Vietnam. Jane Fonda was unquestionably viewed by Brennan as an enemy of the people and a traitor. The gulf between her activity and his patriotism was the gasoline that ignited his contempt for her. Henry Fonda's son and Jane's brother, Peter Fonda, was a countercultural figure as well. Easy Rider, in which Brennan starred, promoted drug use, social freedom, and civil disobedience. This likely made him nervous. Both Peter Fonda's on-screen and off-screen personalities, in his view, represented a generation that had abandoned morality, discipline, and tradition. Peter was viewed by Brennan as an indulgent Hollywood product, by someone who valued religion, hard work, and lawfulness. An additional shock was Natalie Wood, who was famous from Rebel Without a Cause and West Side Story. Despite her stunning good looks and incredible talent, concerns arose about her troubled private life and mysterious death. Her terrible demise may have served as a symbol to Brennan of Hollywood's knack for destroying budding stars. Her rumored extramarital affairs, excessive drinking, and drowning in 1981 may have led him to view her as just another casualty of Hollywood's hedonistic culture and moral decay.